What if I told you that Starbucks, the biggest coffee chain in the world, is in trouble? Stores are closing, prices are skyrocketing, employees are walking out, and customers are fed up. The company that once made coffee culture is now losing it.
Right, so my question is, when did a Starbucks that's a grande size become $6?
So what happened? How did the coffee empire that took over the world start to crumble? Was it corporate greed, bad management, or did Starbucks just get too big for its own good? Today we're breaking down the rise and fall of Starbucks, the wild decisions, the controversies, and whether the coffee giant can survive its biggest crisis yet. To understand how Starbucks started falling apart, we first have to remember what made it special in the first place. There was a time when Starbucks wasn't just a coffee shop, it was an experience. In the late 80s and 90s, Starbucks wasn't just selling coffee, they were selling a lifestyle. Plush chairs, warm lighting, smooth jazz playing in the background. It wasn't just a place to grab a drink, it was a place to meet, work, or just escape for a moment, and people loved it.
But what I learned is that guiding principles and culture can define a company, and that is the secret of our success.
And it worked. By the early 2000s, Starbucks had exploded with thousands of stores worldwide. It was everywhere, from street corners to airports to inside grocery stores. It became a daily ritual for millions. But as Starbucks grew, something started to change. The bigger Starbucks got, the more it had to prioritize speed over quality, profits over experience. And that's where the first cracks started to appear. At its peak, Starbucks wasn't just growing, it was exploding. By the mid-2000s, the company was opening a new store every single day, no matter where you were, New York, Tokyo, Paris, or a small town in the middle of nowhere. You could find that familiar green siren logo.
Between 2000 and 2007, the number of Starbucks cafes more than quadrupled, from 3,500 to over 15,000.
But here's the problem. When a brand grows too fast, it starts losing control of what made it special. Starbucks wasn't just opening new stores, it was cannibalizing itself. By the late 2000s, Starbucks had over 15,000 locations worldwide, often with multiple stores just blocks away from each other. In some cities, you could literally stand inside one Starbucks and see another right across the street. This might sound convenient for customers, but for Starbucks, it was a disaster waiting to happen. Because instead of bringing in new customers, these extra locations just took business away from other Starbucks stores. Sales became diluted, and suddenly, these once thriving cafes were struggling to stay profitable.
The world's largest coffee chain is seeing a major slump in sales. Starbucks released its preliminary earnings report revealing a sharp drop in sales for the third consecutive quarter, down 6% here and off 14% in China.
And when sales start to drop, companies panic. And what does a corporation do when it panics? It starts cutting corners. At its core, Starbucks built its brand on quality, handcrafted drinks, expert baristas, and an atmosphere that felt welcoming and premium. But with so many stores opening and demand skyrocketing, the company had to make a choice: stick to quality or prioritize speed. And unfortunately, they chose speed. Gone were the days of carefully pulled espresso shots and freshly steamed milk. Instead, Starbucks introduced automatic espresso machines, replacing the traditional handcrafted process. The idea? Faster drinks, more efficiency, and less training needed for baristas. The problem? Customers noticed the difference. The coffee didn't taste as good anymore. The experience felt less personal. Starbucks had become just another fast food chain. Even Starbucks' own founder, Howard Schultz, admitted it was a mistake. In a leaked memo from 2007, he wrote, "We have lost our soul." He knew that in chasing growth, Starbucks had sacrificed the very thing that made people love it. And then came the biggest challenge yet, the 2008 financial crisis. As the economy crumbled, people started cutting back on luxuries. And guess what? A $5 latte was one of the first things to go. Starbucks sales plummeted. Hundreds of stores were suddenly unprofitable. For the first time in its history, Starbucks had to shut down 600 locations.
Company says it's closing 600 latte landmarks in the next year.
Thousands of employees were laid off. And as Starbucks scrambled to survive, it became clear something had to change. They needed to fix the brand before it was too late. In 2008, Starbucks made a bold move. They brought back Howard Schultz as CEO, the man who had originally turned the company into a global powerhouse. Schultz knew Starbucks had lost its way, and he had a plan to fix it. What were Schultz's big changes? First, reinvesting in coffee quality. Starbucks shut down all US stores for a full day to retrain baristas on how to properly make espresso. Redesigning stores. Schultz wanted to bring back the cozy, community-driven atmosphere that had been lost, cutting losses, closing underperforming stores, and slowing down expansion. For a while, it worked. Starbucks bounced back, stocks recovered, and customers started returning. But as the company regained its strength, new problems started brewing. Let's talk about the elephant in the room: the prices. Starbucks has always been a little pricey, but in the last decade, it's gone from expensive to downright ridiculous. Let's look at the price increases over time. Cake pops have gone up 97% and bagels 80%, while a frappe has gone up 30%. These prices are insane. And these price hikes aren't just frustrating customers, they're driving them away entirely. With inflation hitting hard, people are asking, Is Starbucks really worth it? Meanwhile, Starbucks has been making record profit. So, where's all the money going? Well, that brings us to the next big controversy. For years, Starbucks has been seen as a better place to work compared to fast food chains, but in the last few years, that image has completely changed. Why? Because Starbucks has been fighting its own workers. Employees say they are underpaid, overworked, and not given enough hours. Let's take a look at one of the reviews that a former Starbucks employees left on Glassdoor.
Factory of evil and misery, says a shift supervisor in Houston. Pros: health insurance for part-time workers, free drinks while working. Cons: literally everything else. You may die, you may be forced to clean biohazards you don't have proper equipment for, you are not paid enough to take advantage of the health insurance, the free college is a lie, and if you die, the company won't even let your coworkers attend your funeral. Damn. Advice to management: grow a soul and stop grinding your employees into the dust you sprinkle on top of cookie crumble frappuccinos.
Yeah, not a great look. Also, Starbucks has fired pro-union workers and shut down stores that tried to unionize. Even though the company makes billions, workers say they aren't seeing any of it. For a company that's built its reputation on being ethical and progressive, Starbucks' treatment of its employees has been a PR nightmare, and the backlash, it's just getting started. And if there's one place where Starbucks has taken a major hit, it's social media. TikTok and YouTube are full of viral videos trashing Starbucks. Younger customers are moving away from Starbucks, preferring local coffee shops with unique flavors and more authenticity. Political controversies. Every time Starbucks takes a stance on something, it alienates part of its customer base. For the first time in decades, Starbucks isn't cool anymore. In the eyes of many customers, it's just another giant corporation that charges too much and gives too little. Let's be real. The Starbucks experience isn't what it used to be. Long wait times, mobile order chaos, and inconsistent drink quality are pushing customers away. And when you're charging $7 for a coffee, people expect perfection. So what can Starbucks do to fix this? It can invest in better training for baristas to ensure consistency. It can speed up mobile order fulfillment by redesigning store layouts and hiring more staff during peak hours. And also, it can simplify the menu. Too many complicated drinks slow down service. If Starbucks can bring back quality and speed, they might win back frustrated customers. But that's only the beginning. Let's talk about Starbucks' biggest turnoff: the prices. Inflation is real, and people are watching every dollar they spend. When a venti frappuccino starts costing as much as a meal, customers start asking, is this really worth it? Let's look at a price comparison chart between Starbucks, Dunkin', McDonald's, and local coffee shops. See the problem? Starbucks has positioned itself as premium coffee, but with more affordable competitors improving their quality, Starbucks might be pricing itself out of the market. What can Starbucks do to fix this? Well, it can introduce a lower cost menu with more budget-friendly options. It can bring back the value deals. Loyal customers want discounts and promotions, not just reward points. And it can also stop the sneaky price hikes. If prices must go up, at least be transparent. If Starbucks keeps pushing prices higher, they may end up driving their own customers away. But even worse than the prices is how Starbucks is treating its own workers. Starbucks was once seen as one of the best places to work in the food industry. But in recent years, employees have been speaking out and fighting back.
No contract, no coffee.
You should be able to afford rent, food, and healthcare.
I have many coworkers who are struggling to afford their rent at the end of the month, or end up having to choose between rent, groceries, and their regular bills.
Low wages despite record company profits. Not enough hours making it hard for employees to qualify for benefits. Union-busting tactics. Starbucks has been shutting down stores that unionize. Starbucks needs to address this, or they risk losing their workforce entirely. And here's the thing. Customers are starting to care. More and more people are choosing where to spend their money based on how companies treat their workers. What can Starbucks do to fix this? They can work with unions, not against them. Many companies have successfully embraced unions. Starbucks can too. They can improve wages and benefits to keep employees happy and reduce turnover. They can stop retaliating against union stores. This bad PR just isn't worth it. If Starbucks wants to rebuild trust, not just with workers, but with customers, it must change how it treats the people who make its stores run. So can Starbucks really pull itself out of this mess? The answer may lie in the hands of the company's new CEO, Brian Niccol, the former CEO of Chipotle, who took the reins at Starbucks in September 2024. After years of turmoil, price hikes, and employee unrest, Niccol's leadership could be the turning point that the company desperately needs. Niccol has been brought in to do what he did at Chipotle, turn things around. Everything from employee protests to declining customer loyalty. Can he really save the coffee giant? One of Nickel's first moves as CEO was to reconnect Starbucks with what made it great, the Starbucks experience. Over the years, as the brand grew, so did its focus on speed and convenience, often at the expense of the cozy, community-driven ambiance. Long lines, rushed orders, and increasingly robotic service became the norm, and it started to alienate customers. So, what's his plan? Back to the basics. Nickel has promised to return to the authentic Starbucks experience by focusing on improving in-store ambiance. He has even rolled out a Back to Starbucks campaign, where stores are getting upgrades to reintroduce the traditional warmth of the brand. Imagine more space to relax, more focus on quality drinks, and friendly baristas who know your name. Next is simplifying the menu. Starbucks has overcomplicated its offerings in recent years. Nickel's solution? Reducing the menu by 30%, cutting down on the unnecessary complexity, and making service faster without sacrificing quality. It's about delivering exactly what customers want without overwhelming them. If Nickel can deliver on his promise to improve the in-store experience and restore the quality of Starbucks coffee, this could be the first step in winning back the loyal customers who feel like the brand has lost its soul. So what's Nickel's approach? Addressing wages. Nickel has stated that employees' compensation will be a priority. Starbucks has already raised wages in some regions, but many are still waiting for concrete action on a broader scale. Respecting workers' rights. Nickel must figure out how to deal with unions, not by shutting them down, but by working with them. His experience in managing large teams could help him create a more harmonious work environment. Nickel's ability to fix Starbucks' relationship with its workforce will be one of the biggest tests. If he can find a balance between corporate interest and fair treatment for his employees, it could be the key to turning Starbucks around. Starbucks has seen its share of challenges, but with Brian Nickel at the helm, it's clear that a new chapter is beginning. Whether he can steer the company back to the top will depend on how well he can address its pricing, improve the employee experience, and restore the iconic Starbucks vibe that made it a global powerhouse. The question remains, can Nickel bring back the magic, or will Starbucks fade into the background, a victim of its own success? What do you think? Can Brian Nickel turn Starbucks around, or is this coffee giant facing a point of no return? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this deep dive, hit the like button and subscribe for more brand breakdowns. Thanks for watching.